You're listening to That Music Podcast with Bryson Tarvin, the curriculum designer and educational consultant behind That Music Teacher and the Elementary Music Summit. Each week, Bryson and his guests will dive into the reality of being an elementary music teacher and how music can truly be transformative in the lives of the students you serve. Show notes and resources mentioned in this episode can be found at thatmusicteacher.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to That Music Podcast. Today, I am extremely excited about our special guests, which I think might actually be the first time we've had more than one guest on a podcast episode at the same time. So I'm really excited to have Carrie and Tanya here with us. We're going to be talking about double duty songs, what that means, why it's important, and a lot of other fun things. So Carrie and Tanya, thank you so much for joining us here on That Music Podcast.
Of course.
Thanks for having us.
So for whoever wants to pick this one up, to kick us off, for anyone who might be new to the idea, how do you define a double duty song in the context of the elementary music classroom?
Yeah, I'm going to go first on this one. So double duty songs essentially are songs that you can use when introducing more than one musical concept, specifically a music literacy concept. So when we're thinking about rhythmic elements, melodic elements, form, or anything along those lines, you know, in our Kodai-inspired curriculum, we create these song lists and we create concept plans. So for each concept, you have a list of songs that you're going to use to teach this concept. And what Tanya and I found, especially coming out of the pandemic, was we really needed to get more bang for our buck with our song lists and not have one completely different list of songs to teach this element and then a completely different list of songs to teach the next element, that we really needed to start overlapping because of how little we were able to sing with our students coming out of the pandemic, and then continuing on just not being able to see our kids as often as we'd like to. So these songs give you bang for your buck as far as you can use the song to teach one element and then bring it back later. You might bring it back in the same grade level, or you might even bring it back in a different grade level. The caveat being, of course, with older students, you don't want to bring back something that they view too babyish or too young. So if you're going to bring back a song that has a simple melodic or rhythmic element to an older group of students for a reason, that still needs to have a hook, like a good game or a good activity that goes with it. So you got to really be thinking about the age appropriate thing when you're thinking about these double duty songs, and also thinking about yourself. These have to be songs that you really love and enjoy because you're going to sing them and play the games a lot. And so you're going to get tired of yourself. So it has to be something you really enjoy.
Yeah, honestly, this was the biggest shift in my teaching, was when I realized I didn't just have to have one song for one concept and then had to have like 400 different songs in a year. Like that was a huge shift in just my own quality of life in the classroom, but also my students. I noticed it in my students as well. So I'm curious, from your perspective, what are the biggest benefits of incorporating these double duty songs? Especially for, you touched on it already a little bit, for a lot of teachers who feel like we don't see our students as enough to cover all of the things.
I think one of the biggest things is that if you pick repertoire that students really love and that you love, and you revisit that, they get excited about revisiting that. You are not taking as long to reteach the song. If there's a game that goes along with it that they're really jazzed about, that's a plus. And then when you're revisiting the song, you go, oh, hey, I know you understand that there's a mi, re, do here, but now let's look at the rhythm. And you can just ease into that second concept to teach with that material that they already know. So there's that joyful revisiting music that we love, but also it cuts down on your planning time significantly because you are taking the same repertoire and you are just milking it for all the wonderful music concepts you can. And, we say double duty, but really we've got several songs that can be triple or quadruple duty. And if we're talking about things like dynamics and tempo, those are things that are really easy to incorporate. And then you can also move towards making those performance pieces and adding on and having those kids really experience a true musical, making this into a musical performance and bringing in all the things that makes it real music.
Yeah, and what I love that we've already really kind of talked about a lot is that this isn't just doing the same thing over again for the sake of making it easier. Like there's so much that the students are getting out of it. There's so much that we're taking it deeper because we don't have to just teach a song and then move to the literacy and then move on and do it again. We can really get deeper because we really are saving time in the classroom by not having to teach and reteach brand new repertoire for every single concept. And I think that is a huge thing that can be really beneficial in so many different ways. So obviously, I talked saving time. That was a huge thing for me, especially with so many different preps. That is a huge benefit of doing this, and you mentioned it earlier. But beyond that, how do double duty songs or triple duty or quadruple or whatever, how do they really allow our students to have that deeper understanding for students? And do you find that teaching multiple concepts at the same time can actually help the students grasp them a little bit better?
Yeah, what I have found with my students is, when I'm focusing on just the rhythmic element of a song and they're getting that, that's great. And then when we focus on just the melodic element of a song, whether it's through stick notation or on the staff, just simple note heads, they're getting that, and that's great. But the times where we bring those two things together, like adding rhythm stems to the note heads, all of a sudden, I remember doing this with my first graders for the first time this year, where we were adding the stems to the note heads. And the students just immediately said, "That's music. That's real music." And I'm like, yeah, we've been doing it all along since kindergarten, really. But they have that aha moment where they understand how the rhythmic elements and the melodic elements sync up. And so that brings them to deeper understanding of what music notation looks like. But even beyond music notation, as Tanya said, when you've really steeped yourself in these songs and they're in your bones, you've sung these songs so many times, you've played the game so many times, now we can maybe create or do new things with it. We can add an ORF ensemble to it. We can create a B section by creating our own little rhythmic or melodic things that go along with it because they have the concepts down so well. So it leads to that higher level understanding.
Yeah, and I think I want to touch on that point of the aha moment because we've all been there, especially Kodai influenced teachers, where it's like we really focus on melody, we really focus on rhythm, and then we kind of forget that they're all the same thing. And seeing our students, I've had that exact same realization with my students where they go, "Oh my goodness, like this is like music. I've seen this before." I'm like, "Yeah, we have." And really connecting that I think is a great way to again just take it beyond just music literacy, but just like this is the next level. This is the next step of getting deeper into what this song is. So I know that there are likely people that have a different understanding of what we mean when we're talking about double duty, or maybe they're kind of misinformed or they don't quite understand. So do you have any common misconceptions about using double duty songs, or maybe challenges that teachers might face when they first try to implement this?
I think one of the big challenges that you might encounter is that you might bring a song back and then kids are not excited about it. If that's the case, don't use that song. Go to something else. There's so much repertoire out there, right? So it has to be something that you love, or else you're not going to be excited about teaching it. Has to be something that the kids are excited about, because otherwise the learning is just not going to happen. So that's something that you need to always keep in mind. And you got to read the room. If you are doing some songs within a lesson, and you will notice, oh, these songs are things that the kids love the game. They love putting the ostinato to this. I'm going to make sure I star that and make a mental note or make a physical note that this is something that I could bring back. If there's a song that for whatever reason that the kids are like, not into, it could be they need more time with it. But if you bring it back lesson 2, lesson 3, and they are still not excited about it, even if it's not a double duty song, I would just get rid of it. I've been teaching a long time, and I learned, well, it took me a little while to learn that I can't teach music that I don't love. And the kids can't learn through music that they don't love. So I want to make sure that it's stuff that everybody is excited about. So you want to make sure that's happening. Also, with the songs that you use that are double duty songs, you got to really know your repertoire. And I know that there's a misconception that if it's a short, easy, say first grade song, well, what's to know? There's not much to hot cross buns. And yet, when we do our song analysis within Kodai training programs, And we really look at the melodic structure, the form, the rhythm, all of the things within a one song. We see all of these parts that we can teach with, or maybe things that we can't teach with. But that's why I really value my Kodai training, is because creating that song collection not only gives you a body of repertoire to work with, but you really have to, you get to know those songs. You have to, because when you are doing the analysis of all these little things, you're just singing this song over and over again. You're looking at intervals, you're looking at the tone set, you're looking at all those things. And I know as a level 1 Kodai teacher, a lot of times my students will say, well, why are we doing this? Within a few days, they understand why we are doing this. But you really understand the why we are analyzing songs when you get back in the classroom and you go, oh my, I can use this song in this many places. And I wasn't going to do that unless I was forced. And my Kodai training forced me to analyze all those songs. So that has been so valuable to me.
Yeah, I think let's be honest, most of us probably have a little bit of a love-hate relationship who have gone through Kodai levels with analysis. And, those are some long nights, and, you're really, like you said, taking it completely apart and putting it back together piece by piece. But what's great about it is at the end of it, it front, backwards, sideways, literally every way, so that when you get into the classroom, you can see where else it can fit. And I think that is something that you don't get until you get sometimes, because I definitely didn't understand it even until I was a few weeks back in the classroom from my first year, my first Kodai level, is like what that really meant to do that work. So I cannot agree more. So let's talk a little bit about some of those songs that may or may not be in your collection. So here's the fun part. I would love to start with you, Carrie. Could you share one or two of your absolute favorite double duty songs? Kind of walk us through how you use them, what concepts you use for them, kind of what that looks like in your classroom.
Yeah, so I'm going to share a classic that many people probably already know. It's Bounce High, Bounce Low. When Tanya and I first started talking about this idea of double duty songs, I think this is the one that both came to mind for both of us. So I'll just sing it real quick, and I'm sorry I have a bit of a head cold, so if it sounds a little scratchy, that's why. But the song goes, bounce high, bounce low, bounce the ball to Shiloh. That's it. A simple 8-beat song that on the surface might seem really like, what do you do with this thing, right? So the first time I introduced this song is in first grade, and it's a steady beat activity. And I do the classic sit in a circle and pass like a playground ball with the steady beat. Now, this is like a later practice of steady beat because this is hard. It's hard for first grade students to pass an item with a steady beat. And I've worked in some situations where the kids were not getting it. So to go back to Tanya's point earlier, okay, we're done. We're not going to keep trying to beat a dead horse with that. But if my students are successful with the game of passing with the steady beat, which typically they have been, and usually I'm playing like a hand drum or something to kind of give them that support, we sit in a circle, we pass the ball on the steady beat of the song. And at the end, whoever has the ball in the last beat is out. But here's what they get to do. They get to go play the steady beat on a tubano. And it's the first time that they've gotten to play a tubano in first grade. So getting out is not sad and it's not scary. In fact, sometimes they kind of try to hold the ball so that they do get out on purpose. So that's a whole thing we have to talk about. And we talk about how this is just a game of luck. It's not a game of skill, because when you get out, you get out. It just happens to be the person who gets the ball in the last beat. So that's how I introduce the song the very first time. They haven't seen the notation. I sing it for them, and their job is just to pass the ball with a steady beat. And inevitably, after we've played a couple of rounds, they're starting to catch on to the song and they're starting to sing along, and I can stop singing, which is always the goal, right? Is to stop singing and let them take over. So that's the first time it's introduced. Another day, I might start talking about the difference between beat and the way the words go, otherwise known as a rhythm. But if I haven't introduced that word rhythm, then I talk about the way the words go. So I might show them icons of steady heartbeats, meaning an actual heart icon with little balls, soccer balls, or whatever kind of playground ball you want to show. And the little ball represents 2 sounds on a beat. And then you've got one that represents 1 sound on a beat. So I'm starting to introduce this idea of beat versus the way the words go. And so we might tap it on our hands. We might snap it with our fingers. We might do different things to experience that. Later on, once they know Ta and Titi, we can pull the song back and now we can read the notation. Now they can read the music, the rhythm, but we're still just isolating stick notation because we're not focusing on the melody yet. Another big thing I use this song for, this truly is like a quadruple song for me, is talking about 2-beat meter and the difference between strong and weak beats. So instead of playing the traditional game where we pass the ball around with a steady beat, I might give each student a racquetball ball or a tennis ball, and you can use that to go bounce, catch, bounce, catch, bounce, catch while we sing the song, which is a lot to ask of a first grader. So we have lots of caveats of if the ball rolls away, you go and get it. And we're doing this stationary with our feet flat. We're not walking around or traveling. And the goal is to bounce and catch with the beat. And what happens really beautifully with bounce high, bounce low is that you are literally bouncing on the word bounce when you play that activity. The ball bounces on the ground every time you say the word bounce. And then that translates later into identifying the strong beats. That's when we bounce it on the floor. The weak beats is where we catch it. So then we can literally do that motion in the air of bounce, catch, which becomes a conducting motion. Down, up, down, up. And then later on, we learn how to put in bar lines and create the measures. And isn't that great? Oh, but wait, there's more, because then you could bring the song back if you're not sick of it. Because at this point, if you're sick of it and your students are sick of it, maybe it's time to let it go. But again, because there's so many fun things, my kids love the game, they're usually able to hang with me. And I do bring it back when I'm introducing the concept of la, melodic. So we have the so, la, so, mi, so, la, la, so, mi. So this is way later in the year after we've already learned so and mi. Now we can bring this song back and we can understand that the bounce high. Oh, and how convenient is that the word high is literally a higher sound than so. So this song just lends itself to all of those discovery moments with the students orally, physically, and then we can lead that into law and reading it and note heads on the staff. And then, as I mentioned before, once they are able to read it with note heads on the staff, we can add the rhythm back in, and now we're reading real music, even though all along we have been, but we've just been tricking them into it along the way. So that's a classic favorite. So many things you can do with it. And the kids, that's one that they don't seem to get sick of. They just love those games, both the ball passing and the bouncy ball game. So they hang with me with that one for a long time.
And what I love about that is you got all of that, all of those concepts, all of the digging that deep from 8 beats.
Exactly.
Like that is that's also one that I use for a lot. Because again, the kids, I don't know what it is about it, but the kids really do stick with it longer than you might think. That's definitely one of my favorites. And I love the idea of, I've actually never done it, the sitting down passing. So I learned a little new thing from my toolbox today. So I appreciate that. So I'm curious, Tanya, what your favorites are. What are some of your favorite ways?
So hard to choose, but I'm going to go a little higher in grade level with a song called Hop Old Squirrel that many of us have used and know. And it sounds like this. Hop old squirrel, idle dum, hop old squirrel, idle dum dee. Hop old squirrel, idle dum, hop old squirrel, idle dum dee. And the first time that we learn this and play this is usually in second grade in my world, because we're going to focus on the melodic concept of re, a pitch between mi and do. And so the game that we first play with this is I have students in trios around the room. And it's really easy to do this after you get them in a circle where you have 2 students turn towards each other and there's a student in the middle. You're a tree, you're a squirrel, you're a tree. And those trees, they connect their limbs, their hands, around the squirrel in the middle. And around the room, we just have all these trees with one squirrel in the middle. Hopefully, there's one person left over who is in the middle. And if not, then that person is me in the middle. And while we are singing Hop Old Squirrel, everyone is hopping in the middle of their tree. And then at the end of the song, idle dum dee, all the limbs go up and all of the students have to go to, all the squirrels have to go to a brand new tree. They cannot revisit the same tree that they've revisited. Of course, the person in the middle is going to also go to a tree. So then now we have a new person in the middle. So it's this kind of elimination game. And it's really active because we are hopping. I want to make sure there's singing also. So I'm not picky about the hopping. singing is better. So if we're just kind of bouncing within our trees, that's great. So the first time I introduced this song, we are just doing the game and the song. And this is what I would call an active part. Even though it's active, it would be called a relaxation segment within my lesson. Relaxation, because I'm not asking them to decode anything. I'm not asking them to think hard. We're not analyzing anything. It's relaxation for their brains, but not for their bodies. Because we know with teaching these younger students, or frankly, anybody, that moving is a form of relaxation, right? As long as we don't have a stopwatch and a competition going on. So first time, we are just playing the game, getting to know the song. Then when we bring it back for maybe the next lesson, we are going to focus on the descending idle dum dee and how our voices go down. And my students at this point, they are familiar with do, they are familiar with me. And then, oh, we've got this middle note in between. Well, let's just hum on that. So we'll sing me, 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 do, right? Or you also could sing middle. I've done that too in previous years. So they are singing with me's, re's, and do's, but they are singing a hum for the me. And so we'll sing different patterns with our mi, re, do. And this also is a great time that if next in my lesson is another mi, re, do song, let's say hot cross buns, there is your lovely transition that we have that mi, do that goes to hot cross buns, right? So it also allows for that transition melodically. So melodically, we are focusing on re. We'll sing it. We'll look at visuals where we are following dots on the board or the Mimeo board, and we've got that question mark in that re space, and it's probably on lines or in spaces, but it doesn't have to be. We can just be following the melodic contour. We can also use manipulatives, and we can build patterns with mi, do, or do, mi, and mix it up. There's lots of different ways. Carrie mentioned that we are doing things physically and visually and kinesthetically and orally. We can do body signs where we have our me on our hips, the re is on our thighs, and the do is on our knees. So instead of hand signs, I do body signs until about the middle of third grade. Then I transition over to hand signs because I have noticed that younger kids have more challenge doing these smaller movements with these Kerwin hand signs. So we're doing some body signs. So we can sing it with our body signs. We can sing it with lyrics with body signs. We can sing it with solfege and hum on the re. We can use those manipulatives. Then once we have gotten re into our understanding, and we enforce this with lots of other songs with re in it, later, maybe in third grade, in my world, it's like early fourth grade, where I would come back to this song and I would use it for tickety, because we've got that hop, o squirrel, idle dum. And the kids, they love this song in fourth grade. As a matter of fact, at the very end of this past school year, I do a choice day, and I list a bunch of songs that we've done for the year for every grade. But kids can always raise a hand and say, oh, but I want to add this game and this song. And Hop Old Squirrel is one of those that even my fifth graders have mentioned that, oh, we want to play Hop Old Squirrel again. So that's fine. If they want to do it, that's awesome, because we can get so much more learning out of that. So when we bring it back for the rhythm, then we are looking at that idle dum, and comparing that 3 sounds on a beat to what we already know, ticka ticka, 4 sounds on a beat, and then away we go from there. And there's lots of ways rhythmically that we can really bring in this understanding of 3 uneven sounds on a beat. Oh, and there's, so much more to that. But I will stop there.
What I love about this is recently someone commented on one of my TikToks basically accusing Kodai teachers of just singing folk songs all day. And I wish they could have been here for this conversation to see all the different levels of what that actually looks like, or what that, what it actually is we're not just singing folk songs all day. So I love that. And again, that's another one of my absolute favorites. And what I love about, double duty songs is that everyone kind of has their own different ones. Yeah, there's some that are kind of universal, and a lot of people use them for a lot of different things. But then there are certain teachers that have ones that they've just kind of latched on with, and their students have really resonated with, and they really are able to make it so personable and specific to the students that are in front of them. So I really appreciate you sharing those strategies and those songs and how you use them. But I know that you have many, many more, and I'm sure that we could talk for hours. So we're really excited to have you as guest speakers inside our membership, Elementary Music Edge, where we're going to be diving in even deeper into double duty songs, how to use them, how to find them, and sharing some really cool ones as well. So can you tell us a little bit more about what our members could expect by joining your masterclass?
So in the masterclass, we are going to be sharing a lot more songs than what we've already shared today. We are planning at this point on sharing 12, but maybe more, maybe less, but lots more songs, and then the specific teaching strategies that go with it, showing specific examples of how we prepare, well, maybe not so much present. We're probably not going to get into the weeds with that, but preparing and practicing specific concepts with those different songs and all the different pathways that you can take with these songs and how we use them and have been successful with them in our classroom. We're never going to present material that we haven't actually done with our students. So we're going to talk about tried and true things that we've both done with our students with these songs.
Yeah, and we will also be providing some freebies along with this, some visual things that you can use connected to some of the songs that we are using, some, things that you can use within your classroom that really solidifies that understanding and that learning for your students. And as Carrie mentioned, we're really excited about sharing strategies that are visual, oral, kinesthetic, and of course, that entryway into the repertoire through the song and game.
I have to be honest, I'm really excited about this. I know I say this to every guest that comes, but I'm really excited because, again, this has been the use of double duty songs was the biggest shift in my career and my quality of life as a teacher and the amount of joy that I saw in front of my students. So Carrie and Tanya, thank you so much for chatting. Again, I'm sure we could just keep on talking forever. It's been a really cool discussion. I love how we were able to keep it practical and share what's really working in your classroom. But before I leave, I would love to know, do you have any final thoughts or words of encouragement or anything that you wish I would have asked you that I never asked you before we go?
Just to drive home the idea of use music that you love and that the students love, and then use it for all it's worth and make it into, fantastic music that the kids enjoy singing, performing, adding instruments to. I mean, as elementary music teachers, sometimes I think people think that we're not doing real music or it's not authentic enough. And it's not like that at all. They're not born at 14 years old. And we really have this awesome opportunity in these early years to have kids have those full musical experiences through wonderful repertoire that everybody loves.
Yeah, and I also just want to remind everyone that getting ideas like this doesn't just happen on its own. You have to seek these things out. So through things like podcasts and virtual trainings, that's one avenue. But of course, attending in-person workshops, Kodai workshops, ORF workshops, going to your local state MEA conference or attending a national conference, AOSA or OAKE conference. These are the places where we got these ideas, right? We've learned these ideas from other master teachers, and then we've put our own twists on them and made them our own. So just reminding people to keep seeking out new ideas by attending both virtual things and in-person things, because that's where you're going to get those ideas that's going to help you create that longevity for your career.
I could not agree more. So again, Elementary Music Edge members, your masterclass with Carrie and Tanya will be added into your member portal. If you're not a member, feel free to check out the show notes and description wherever you're watching or listening for an exclusive trial to join us inside. So Carrie and Tanya and anyone else listening, thank you so much for being here today. And as always, thank you so much for making a difference in the lives of the students that you teach.